Good morning, folks. Excuse the voice. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. So I started working on updating the VAMP. So the VAMP is the coolest vehicle, I think, in the G.I. Joe universe or world. When the new G.I. Joes came out, as we all know, G.I. Joes were just a little bit taller, just by a little bit. So the VAMP was already somewhat of a small vehicle. It's unique, but when I tried to fit the new GI Joes into the new vehicle, it looks a little bit wonky. It doesn't look quite right. So I always wanted to kind of upgrade the VAMP just by a little bit. I finally got around to doing it. So expanding the body of the VAMP just a tiny bit to accommodate for the new GI Joes. This is what this project's all about. So as you can tell, this is the modified one. I've already worked on it quite a bit. So when I started this project, I knew that I had to bilaterally, horizontally and vertically cut this vehicle apart. And then to do so, I still had to make sure that both sides, wherever the connecting points were going to be at, were going to be equal distance. And that's kind of a difficult thing to do. But what I came up with was Lego bits. So if I cut down the middle of this vehicle, and I'm gonna connect it here, 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 and here, then I need to make sure that the spacing is gonna be almost perfect. So when I make my cuts, I make them as straight as possible, and then I insert Legos. I'll insert Legos because the space is always going to be equal distance. All right. So I put up here, here, and here the same two bits. In certain parts, I went with just one. Down here, I went with one. So I would just insert one of these here and then here. And then that would ensure that I had the equal distance so long as my cut was fairly straight and fairly bilateral, as far as the Dremel not shaking too much and opening up one side more than the other. So you can see here, that's the Lego piece that went in there, and over here. Down here you could see this, all the Lego pieces. And then once I put the Lego pieces, I just basically grind away. I did that with the body. I also did that with the tubing up here, of course. The tubing, this is just leftover antenna from remote controls, the old school remote controls, like the Tamiya Attack. The great thing about these is they're telescopic, so there's various diameters that you can work with. So just about finding the right one, and just making your calculations and trial and error sometimes, so you could just extend that. One of the biggest parts that you're gonna have difficulties if you try this at home is these angles right here. You're gonna have to fill them in with putty, Apex putty. That's what I use, or any other putty, because the angles, once you break this apart, then the angles get distorted. So you have to fill it in so you could compensate for that. Finding the apex where you want to be at, and then bringing this up to fill in that. Also, the hood is going to be distorted. So if you could see here, this is the original line, and then this is the original line. So it's kind of an overbite. So what I did to fix that is basically put a brand new cover. Later on, I could cut in here and make it look like the original. I'm still debating whether I want to put that gun back in there or not. I could do it. I'm not sure if I want to. Excuse me. So the cuts that I did do here, down the middle, of course. And then here, and here, and here. So 1, 2, 3, and then one big one, and then I wanted to lift this, so I cut here and then here. So basically just look at it like a big three-dimensional cuts that you're going to be making in order to just expand and widen and lift the vehicle. It's just by a small tiny bit. It's not too drastic, but you can see after everything's done, it's just a tiny bit bigger. I think it'll look better this way. So then after I do that, then I moved on to the bottom, the wheel wells. Since everything's expanded, I don't really have to put necessarily have to put spacers in here. So I just basically cut the vehicle, the bottom vehicle where I cut prior to all this, and then put it in there. And as you can see, there's a gap. I just fill it in with putty, smooth it out, and then it should look like the original. And there should be no compromises. Back here the same way, with the cage for the gas tanks. It's just about extending it. So yeah, Lego pieces. That helped me a lot. Maybe there's a different way of doing it out there. Maybe 3D printing would be faster, but I like to stick with the original. And it is time consuming, but I find the results are a lot better. I can't say that because I don't have a 3D printer, so I'm speaking out of ignorance. But I've had good success doing it scratch build. The awesome thing about 3D printing, though, you could always repeat the process. So once you have that, you have an awesome template. But for me, I don't see too much worth in doing the 3D printing because not too many people want to pay the amount to make these for customs. So, which is understandable because they could get pricey, and they're just toys after all. And of course, this is gonna be remote control. So I'll be making the carriage to be on an RC. It should be fairly fast. I mean, it's not too heavy. So the one that I'm using is gonna be a 122. These are my go-to vehicles. They're fast. I'm a little bit worried about the wheelbase, but I think I'll be able to work with it. I'll figure something out to make it a little bit shorter. But if not, I'll figure out a different chassis to work with. This one's fast though. These are fast, reliable. They're good. Excuse me. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Fairly simple though. I definitely would suggest those Legos and straight cuts to the body, and then fit it in with the Legos. These Legos are gonna be basically like little. It's kind of like when, I'm not sure you folks out there that you might see the when people lay down tile, they put in these little spacers in between the tiles. That's basically what the Legos help you to do. It's just a specific distance from one end to the other. Yeah, so that's basically it. Have fun out there, and let me know if you have any questions.